You're embarrassing yourself, Laura, asterisk at your age, you should know better than to compete with your sister. Mom's words cut through the Sunday dinner conversation like a blade. I was standing there, holding the engagement ring box I'd just opened to the one James had given me that morning, asterisk, but all eyes were on Erica's hand, where Grandma's vintage sapphire caught the light. Some women are just born to be wives, asterisk, Erica said, examining her nails. Others, well, they try their best. She looked at me with that pitying smile, asterisk, at least you'll have your little hobbies to keep you busy. The table laughed. My own family laughed at me while I stood there with my engagement ring, being told I was embarrassing myself by getting engaged. I closed the box, smiled back, and realized I was done being their entertainment. My name is Laura. I'm 37, asterisk, and I've been quiet long enough, asterisk. Laura, honey, could you get James another drink? You're so good at serving. Mom's voice dripped with that special brand of dismissal she'd perfected over the years. I was sitting at the dinner table, mid-conversation about my research presentation at the medical conference, when she cut me off to turn me into the help, asterisk. The venue tour was supposed to be my moment. I'd researched for months, made spreadsheets, compared prices. The Rosewood estate was perfect, intimate but elegant, with gardens that would photograph beautifully. I'd even made the appointment under my name, but when we walked in, the event coordinator lit up at the sight of Erica. Ms. Chen. So wonderful to finally meet you in person. I have all your emails right here. Her emails. I stood there, wearing my engagement ring, while this woman handed my sister a folder of her correspondence about my wedding. I hope you don't mind, Erica said to me, not sounding like she hoped that at all. I took the liberty of reaching out to a few places. You seemed so overwhelmed. Overwhelmed. I'd been organized. I'd been prepared. But apparently, that looked like overwhelm to her. James squeezed my hand. It's sweet that your sister wants to help, he murmured, and I felt something cold settle in my chest. Sweet. Like I was a child who needed assistance with grown-up things. The coordinator walked us through the space, directing most of her comments to Erica. Now, for the color scheme you mentioned in your email, the burgundy and gold would be stunning in here. She gestured to the main hall. And we can definitely accommodate the jazz quartet you asked about. I hadn't asked about a jazz quartet. I'd wanted a string trio. What about the timeline? I asked, trying to insert myself into the conversation about my own wedding. Oh, that's all handled, Erica said breezily. I've been coordinating with the caterer, the florist, the photographer. Everything's under control. Under her control. My wedding was under her control. That evening, I checked our joint account. There was a charge I didn't recognize, $400 to Cartier. When I asked James about it, he got that sheepish look he gets when he's been caught doing something he thinks is romantic but forgot to mention. It's a surprise, he said. For someone special. I found the receipt in his jacket pocket the next morning. The jewelry had been shipped to Erica's address, opened a new savings account that day. One that only I could access. If they wanted to plan my wedding without me, they could pay for it without me too. Asterisk Dad's 70th birthday party was supposed to be my moment to shine. I'd organized everything, the invitations, the catering, the flowers. I'd even arranged for his favorite jazz musician to play during dinner. But when it came time for toasts, Erica stood up first. I want to say something about my little sister, she began, and the room quieted. Her voice carried that tone of fond exasperation that makes cruelty sound like concern. Laura has always been ambitious. She's been working on her master's degree for what, 3 years now? Murmurs from the crowd. I'd been working on it for 18 months, and I was ahead of schedule. At 37, most women have figured out what they want to be when they grow up, Erica continued, her smile sharp as cut glass. But our Laura? She's still trying to prove herself. Still trying to be something she's not. The room was dead silent now. I felt every eye on me. Some people just aren't built for the real world, she said, raising her glass. But we love her. Anyway, don't we? Here's to Laura, always almost there, but never quite making it. The laughter that followed was the kind that cuts deep. 60 people, including my father, raising their glasses to toast my failures. I stood up slowly, my own glass in hand. Thank you, Erica. That was illuminating. I looked around the room at all the faces I'd known my entire life. You know. What? You're absolutely right. I am still figuring things out. Like why I've been killing myself to impress people who've already decided I'm not worth their respect. The room went quiet again, but this time it was different. Uncomfortable. But don't worry, I continued, my voice steady and cold. I'm a quick learner. I drained my glass, set it down, and walked out of my father's birthday party. Behind me, I could hear the whispers starting, the nervous laughter, the sound of a family realizing they'd just crossed a line they couldn't uncross. The next Monday, I called the Rosewood estate and canceled our booking. The contract was in my name, so they couldn't argue. I didn't tell anyone. I just let the absence speak for itself. James looked uncomfortable but said nothing. He never said anything. Actually, Erica chimed in, not looking up from her phone. We need to talk about the wedding expenses. James and I think it would be better if I handled the budget. You're obviously overwhelmed with your studies. She said the word like. It was a cute hobby, not a master's degree in oncology. Erica's so much better with money, Mom agreed, like I wasn't sitting right there. She has a real head for these things. Unlike some people who just dream about being doctors. Dream about being doctors. I was 6 months from graduation, had already been accepted to residency programs, but to them I was still just dreaming. Don't you think that's a bit, I started. A bit what? Erica finally looked up, her eyes sharp. A bit smart? A bit practical? James, tell her. Wouldn't you feel better knowing someone responsible was handling things? James shifted in his seat. Well, Erica does have more experience with large purchases. The knife I was holding to cut the cake suddenly felt very heavy. My own fiancé had just agreed that my sister was more capable of planning my wedding than I was. Of course, I said quietly. Whatever you think is best. But later, when I was cleaning up, I heard Erica on the phone in the hallway. She has no idea how to handle a man like James, she was saying. Honestly, I don't know why he stays with her. She's so basic. That night, I made my first choice. I downloaded a recording app on my phone. If they wanted to talk about me, like I was invisible, it was time I started using that invisibility to my advantage. The silence had been protecting them. Now it would protect me. Asterisk, the text came from a number I didn't recognize. Just a photo of Erica and James at a coffee shop across town, her hand on his cheek, his lips on hers. They looked comfortable together. Practiced, I stared at the image. For a long time, sitting in my car in the hospital parking lot after my shift. The photo was time-stamped from that morning, when James had told me he had an early meeting with his supervisor. That night, he came home with takeout and an apology for being late. How was your meeting? I asked, setting the table for two. Productive. He said, not meeting my eyes. Really productive. I nodded and served the pad thai, thinking about how Erica had been wearing the sweater I'd given her for Christmas, and how James had that same brand of lipstick on his collar that she always wore. The next morning, a group text popped up on my phone. Family chat, with a photo of James and Erica at some restaurant, both of them laughing. The caption read, "Some couples just fit," with a heart emoji. Mom had liked it. Dad had liked it. Even Aunt Susan had liked it. I screenshot the image and saved it to a folder I labeled evidence. Then I went to the bank and transferred everything from our joint account to the new one I'd opened. All of it, the money we'd saved for the wedding, the down payment fund, the emergency savings. Every dollar that had my name on it. The account balance notification went to both our phones. James called me immediately. "Laura, what's going on? Where's the money?" "What money?" I asked, genuinely curious to hear his explanation. "Our money. The joint account. It's empty." "Oh, that." I was folding laundry, making my voice sound distracted. "I moved it somewhere safer." "Safer from what?" "From you," I thought. "From her." "From all of them." But I said, "Just safer." He came home early that day, full of apologies and explanations that didn't explain anything. I listened to all of it, nodding. In the right places, and then I told him I was tired and went to bed. I wasn't tired. I was planning. I left on a Tuesday morning, while James was at work and Erica was at her yoga class. I'd been planning it for weeks: the medical residency application, the apartment lease, the moving company. Everything had been arranged quietly, efficiently. Without fuss, the letter I left was brief: "James, I'm returning your ring and mine. I think we both know this isn't working anymore. The venue contract has been cancelled. The caterer has been notified. The photographer has been paid in full and released from her obligations. Please don't contact me." Laura, I didn't mention Erica. I didn't need to. The pediatric oncology program at Johns Hopkins had accepted me 6 months earlier. I'd deferred my start date twice, telling them I needed to finish some family obligations. Now, suddenly, I was free of all my obligations. My phone started ringing before I'd even reached the state line. James first, then Erica, then Mom. I let them all go to voicemail and then, at a rest stop somewhere in Pennsylvania, I turned the phone off entirely. 3 days later, I got a call from my lawyer, the one I'd hired quietly, months ago. Erica had been trying to access the wedding funds, assuming they were still in the joint account. When she discovered the account was empty, she'd called the vendors directly, trying to reinstate the contracts. "She's upset," my lawyer said, with the careful tone lawyers use when they mean someone is screaming. "I imagine she is," I replied. "Please handle any additional communications through your office." "What about the family property in Napa? Your father's been trying to reach you about the inheritance paperwork." "I'd already thought about that too. I'm transferring my portion to an irrevocable trust. The documents are in the mail." 2 weeks later, I was settled in Baltimore, living in a small apartment near the hospital, starting my residency in pediatric oncology. The work was hard, the hours were long, and for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. The silence I'd cultivated had finally given me space to hear my own voice. Dad's heart attack came without warning. The call came at 3 a.m. from a number I'd programmed into my phone but hoped I'd never see. Johns Hopkins, Dr. Chen, emergency only. I flew back for the funeral. 3 years had passed since I'd left, and I'd changed. The residency had sharpened me, made me more confident. I'd learned to make life and death decisions quickly, to trust my instincts, to speak with authority when it mattered. The funeral home was exactly as I'd expected. Erica held court near the casket, accepting condolences like a receiving line. At a wedding. She was wearing the sapphire ring, and a black dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. James stood beside her, looking older and tired. His business had failed, I'd heard through the medical community grapevine. Something about bad investments and worse partnerships. They both saw me at the same time. Erica's face went through a fascinating series of expressions: surprise, guilt, anger, and finally, calculation. "Laura," she said, loud enough for the whole room to hear. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "I'm here for Dad," I said simply. "Of course you are. Still alone, I see." She gestured to the space beside me. "Some things never change." I smiled, the kind of smile I'd learned to use with difficult parents of my patients, calm, professional, unreadable. Actually, I'm not alone. Robert, could you come over here? Robert Thornton stepped forward from where he'd been quietly paying his respects. He was exactly as I'd described him to friends, understated, brilliant, kind. He was also one of the most respected oncologists in the country, and one of the most generous philanthropists on the East Coast. This is my husband, I said, taking Robert's hand. Robert, this is my sister Erica, and her friend, James. The room went quiet. Someone in the back whispered, "Wait, is that Robert Thornton? The guy who donated the children's wing?" Erica's face had gone pale. James was staring at Robert like he'd seen a ghost. "Thornton," James said slowly. "You were the investor who turned down your proposal." "Yes," Robert said politely. "Good to see you again, James." A photographer from the local paper approached us. "Dr. Chen Thornton? I'm so sorry for your loss. Would it be possible to get a photo? The community would love to know about your family's continued support of the Children's Hospital." Chen Thornton. I'd hyphenated my name when we married, but I'd never corrected the pronunciation. People assumed Robert had taken my name. "Of course," I said, and we posed beside the flower arrangements. The flash went off, and I knew that by tomorrow, the photo would be online, along with the story of our recent $2 million donation to the pediatric ward. After the photographer left, I turned back to Erica and James. "I should pay my respects to Dad," I said. "It was interesting to see you both." We walked away, Robert's hand warm in mine. Behind us, I could hear Erica's voice, high and sharp, trying to explain to someone who Robert was and how she'd never heard of him. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. The silence I'd left behind was speaking for itself. The funeral was on a Thursday. By Saturday, I was back in Baltimore, back to my patients, back to the life I'd built. The letters started arriving the following week. James, 3 pages of apologies. Erica, careful words about being proud of my accomplishments. Mom, suddenly interested in dinner plans. I filed them all away and did something I hadn't done in 3 years. I looked up the Serenity House Recovery Center and made an anonymous donation, earmarked for their family counseling program. Then I blocked all their numbers. Robert found me on the back porch that evening, watching the sunset. He sat beside me, not saying anything. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked finally. "Leaving them behind?" I thought about the family dinners where I'd been invisible, the wedding that had been stolen from me, the years of being told I wasn't enough. "No," I said. I regret how long it took me to realize that silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Erica. I got a new phone. Please call me." I deleted the message without responding. The people who truly matter don't need to chase you down to prove their love. They just love you, quietly and consistently, in ways that don't require an audience. This story reminded you of someone, maybe yourself. Remember that you don't have to scream to be heard. Sometimes the loudest thing you can do is simply walk away, and sometimes that's enough.